Hello. Just wanted to come on here. I just got done having a brisk walk with the dog, which was nice. It's a beautiful day today. Low 70s. Digging it. Um, I wanted to come on here today to talk about somatic experiences. So what that means, somatic is it's sensations you feel in your body, right? So growing pains. There's somatic, it's a somatic sensation that you feel as your body grows. Sometimes there's achiness that's associated with it and other things. I want to link a little bit our somatic experiences and how they're linked to our emotions. Okay, because like I always say, mind, body, spirit, it's all connected. So, mind is again your thoughts, your beliefs, and how those impact your emotions and how those emotions come out in your body. Okay, because they do. If you think of anxiety or depression, right, or any kind of chronic stress, it depletes your immune system. It makes you more susceptible for illness and over time, even disease, deterioration within the body itself. If you think of a burning ulcer, for instance, a lot of times, people accept the idea that stress can create an ulcer, but you're literally burning a hole in your stomach wall from stress, it's an emotion, right? You think of anxiety and depression and how it can contribute to weight gain within the body, right? Because we have what those emotions, when they're unresolved, okay, they create blockages, all right? So if we're thinking energetically, all right, which is more of a spiritual context, right? But it's all linked, right? So blockages from a psychology perspective is usually those underlying belief systems and thought processes that kind of block our healing process, all right, especially around things like trauma, okay? And trauma can be experienced through the body as well as through the emotions, and usually both in the same, right? Because trauma then usually creates anxiety, depression, and belief systems that don't always serve us. So just trying to link the three in a way that makes sense versus just saying mind, body, spirit. Because it's all, again, links back to our belief systems around words, right? You use certain words and then people are like, oh, that's hokey. I don't know that I can get behind that. However, that's why we have synonyms. I think I get the right one. We have a thesaurus, right? Because words usually have other words that are associated with similar meanings, right? So it really comes down to your belief systems around what different words are and then filling in the blanks. Doesn't make what someone's saying wrong. It's just, is it relatable, right? Can you wrap your head around it within your own belief system context, if you will? So I try to help with that by giving different examples that people can maybe relate to. Because again, it is all connected regardless of your belief systems. It's just you got to use the right words so that it resonates with you, I guess. That's all of us. It's all of us. Not everyone is free thinking and open minded. That doesn't make them wrong. We're all on our own path, So in any case, back to somatic experiences. So blockages and how that impacts the body, okay? So again, if we're holding a maladaptive belief system, okay, based on maybe a trauma or perceived trauma in our life, and that can create an energetic blockage within our body. Okay, so for some people, that may create a weight gain. Other people, it may create a deterioration in some other way. Some people, it may be chronic migraines or stress headaches. Okay, it's called a stress headache for a reason, right? Stress, emotion. Where does the stress come from? Usually our thinking or our perception of our reality, right? Perception is so important because how we perceive our reality can determine whether or not a particular circumstance could be traumatizing for us. So if you think of two people in the same car accident, one person may walk out and not have any trauma, and the other person may walk out and be completely traumatized. Again, no right or wrong and no judgment here. I'm just trying to highlight how it is very, what's the word I want to use? Subjective. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. There's certain traumas, and we're not going to go there here because that's deep and requires individual therapy, and we don't want to trigger anyone. But there are some traumas that would be traumatizing to everyone. Okay, regardless. But that's not what I'm talking about. Yes, it can relate in a lot of ways. There's definitely somatic responses to physical trauma of any kind. Okay. And it's really important to get in with the right type of therapist who can help you work through that so that you don't re-traumatize yourself by doing somatic type mindfulness work, right? Sometimes it's not even a physical trauma, it's an emotional trauma, or not even a trauma. It's just something that we're holding emotionally that we didn't realize we were holding on to. So an unprocessed emotion that we're sitting with, and we feel it in our body, okay? So another example of how we feel emotions in our body, if you think of butterflies, right? It's a sensation we feel, okay? If you think of homesickness, oftentimes that will present similarly. Just based on our perception, we look at it differently, right? So we perceive it more in a negative context versus a positive. So if you think of excited versus anxious, okay, oftentimes they feel the same in the body, right? When we're excited, we feel that angst, right? We feel that like, oh my gosh, oh my God, this is going to be really cool, and I'm so excited and I can't wait. And then we get like we're antsy and we can't sit still sometimes, right? We just want to jump around and we want to yell or whatever. I mean, depends on your age and how excited you are, I guess. Whereas when we're anxious, if we have an anxiety attack, it's going to come across similarly. However, the difference is that because we're perceiving that from a negative context, right? So it's that subjective overview, okay? I'm excited because I'm hopeful. I'm anxious because I'm fearful. In both scenarios, 9 times out of 10, what we're hopeful about or what we're fearful about is all assumptions because we're not there yet, right? So we don't know if it's going to go really well and be a positive experience or if it's going to go really poorly and be a negative experience. The somatic experience is similar. The psychological experience is different, okay? It's fascinating, actually. But sometimes we have, if you think of heartache, okay? I know me personally, I feel that in right where around my spleen area, okay? So if we're talking energy work, chakras, right? I feel that more in my solar plexus, okay? Which is your third chakra, okay? Associated with solar, sun, yellow, color yellow, right? That's your area of usually self-confidence, So when I have old memories that come up for me that trigger that area, I feel like an ache in that area for me. Now I'm just using myself because that's the only person I can use, really. I feel an ache in that area. And then I know that I need to do a little solar plexus work. So usually that I might do a little Reiki on myself, or I'll get certain crystals and hold them, because that just helps to channel some of that energy. And I know for some people this sounds really hokey, but it works for me. So I only talk about things that I have myself used and have worked for me. So I share that with you. Whether or not you ever want to try things like that, that's up to you. Again, it depends on how open-minded you are or things like that. But for me, Reiki is a thing. It works. And it helps me when I'm feeling a little unstable or unbalanced is probably a better word, because we all get unbalanced. Trying to be balanced in life is a day-to-day process, right? So anyway, for me, that area is oftentimes associated with maybe a past issue around, like when I was little and I would get homesick when I was in boarding school. So it's almost like I don't want to go too personal, but if you want to label it, I guess you'd say an abandonment issue or something like that. It's usually around relationship, okay? So if I feel a little unbalanced around relationships, I get that ache in that area right there. And it's interesting to me because this is just something I've recently kind of put together for myself. So I don't want to overshare, but I'm just trying to help other people understand how this can play out in your own body, okay? So for me, when I can do a little work on that area, consciously sit with that feeling in my body and see what type of thoughts it brings up for me. Usually memories, maybe sometimes things I haven't processed yet. Then I can sit with them and try and perceive them differently with the experience that I've gained since then, right? So I can look back at that and say, oh, so that's sitting in me because of how I looked at it at the time, but now I can look back and say, that happened for my best and highest good, okay? And that I'm sure in retrospect, not everything about that scenario or situation was negative. But you know how it is when you're going through something, especially when it feels a certain particular way. It can be perceived. We tend to overgeneralize as human beings, so we might just look at it and say, "Oh, I was just rotten," right? Or "We said it never happened." We all do it, and that's okay. But see it for what it is. Sometimes people feel pain in their stomach if they sit with chronic anxiety, right? A lot of times anxiety will come out in stomach cramps, okay? Or like I said, tension in the shoulders or stress in the head. And sometimes it's if you're sitting with stress and maybe you tend to clench your jaw, you're going to get a headache. So it's just being aware of how things play out in your body. And again, it doesn't always have to be a reaction to a major trauma or a traumatic event. It could just be sitting with unresolved emotions that you can now, if you take the time to mindfully gain that insight, you can sit with it and process it for yourself and create that healing where you can kind of transmute that emotion for yourself, right? Instead of perceiving it as a bad experience, right? See what you learned from it. Because that's what discomfort is. It's growth. And it's something to teach us. And again, I'm not getting into major trauma here. I'm just trying to, because if you have to do a deep dive on major trauma, you don't want to do that alone, because that could be re-traumatizing. So if you fall into that category, please seek out a professional who can help walk you through the process so that you're not alone. Because nobody deserves to be alone going through that. Okay? I mean, none of us deserve to be alone anyway. But again, alone and how we perceive it is different from person to person. So I hope that helps a little bit. Again, it's going to come out different in different people. And it also, everyone has different issues and different things that you've gone through. There's not one person alive that doesn't have issues, though. I'm just going to say. You show me a person, I'll show you at least 3 problems. And that's okay. That doesn't mean they're unresolvable. That's life, right? You get through those 3 and there's 3 more on the conveyor belt. But you know what? That doesn't have to be your overall generalization of your life. It doesn't have to be your focus. It's just something you have to work through. And because each one of those things, as you work through it, you gain strength, you gain character, you gain tools. So that the next time something similar comes up for you, it's not going to impact you the same. You know? Anyway, that's my little spiel for today. It's already 16 minutes, so I don't want to go on too long. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope this helps when you're recognizing different sensations in your own body and maybe you don't know what it came from. You know, like, why am I feeling this way? There's usually a reason for it. It doesn't have to be a huge life-altering reason. But the more we ignore it, the more it comes knocking, right? So, again, in an effort to find balance in your life, recognize and gain insight into how emotions impact your body, where you feel it. Like, for instance, grief is often associated with lower back pain. Funnily enough, if that's really a word, I don't know. That is linked with your sacral chakra. Do your own research. All right, I'm going to call it a day. I think we're going to get some rain here. So I'm going to go back inside. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you soon. All right.